Strong's H 3772. Karath. Karath. Strong's H 1966. Haleo. Haleo. Strong's H 8398. Tevel. Tevel. Strong's G 2889. Cosmos. Cosmos.
Be inhaling, depending on the.
Well, this story is absolute bonkers. I don't know who the Dr. Evils that are that come up with this kind of stuff. So, experiments to dim the sun are to be given a green light by the UK government. Here's the headlines from the Manchester Evening News. Yes, scientists are planning on dimming the sun in a bid to curb global warming. The UK government is set to announce funding of up to £50 million of funding for the sun dimming experiments in the coming weeks, as the Telegraph reports. They say it's all about limiting the rising temperatures. Okay. Dane Wigington, founder of geoengineeringwatch.org and the great man behind The Dimming, which is a great documentary film about this exact subject. So who better than to talk about all of this? So the way that the Telegraph is reporting this, the way the UK is ready to move on this, Dane, it sounds like this has never happened before and they're just going to try it for the first time. Do you call BS on that?
I do. That's exactly how they want it to sound, Clayton, so that they can pretend that might do this someday, when in fact these operations have been fully deployed since immediately after World War II. So they continue this grand facade, not just the UK, but also in the US, with what the US EPA head posted last week, that he's going to investigate the Make Sunsets group, as we discussed off air, two clowns from Silicon Valley that launched a few balloons. So they continue this grand facade, governments in both countries pretending this hasn't been ongoing for decades already, with catastrophic results manifesting worse by the day.
So what they're saying is it's all about global warming. So they're really worried about rising temperatures on the earth, which we've fully debunked here on this show, that even if the earth has risen a little bit, it's compared to what? Compared to what in history? We're going through these natural, cooling and warming periods. And so they're going to protect England? If they do this, it would only be them that would be protected by this madness?
You can't just geoengineer over your own country, Clayton. You're correct about that. Bottom line is you affect the entire planet, and they know this. So we have documents at geoengineeringwatch.org, government documents, former president. Presidential documents, Senate documents. In fact, one is 800 pages long, former U.S. Senate document from 1978, describing the scope and scale of these operations even then, and the intergovernmental cooperation even then, and even between, quote, otherwise adversarial nations, China, Russia, U.S. Historical fact of record. Soviet climate engineering scientists were touring U.S. climate engineering facilities during the height of the Cold War in the 60s, and our scientists touring theirs. Again, they continue this grand facade. In regard to the state of the climate, what we would encourage people to do from all sides of the fence is to simply follow this inarguable trajectory. How can we have any reasonable conversation about the climate, any legitimate conversation about the climate, without first and foremost addressing the climate engineering elephant in the equation? So from all sides of the fence, we should agree on that. And the whole environmental community, the AOCs, the Al Gores, their denial of what's taking place in our skies is criminal hypocrisy. You can't have any claim to have any concern about the environment from any perspective without addressing this first. This is the single most destructive human activity ever deployed by our species.
And so what chemicals are we talking about here that they would be using in the sky to try to dim the sun? And how devastating would it be to human beings, to the soil, to plants? Plant life to animal life.
If I could change the context to is and has been.
Is and has been. I should have said that. Yes.
Yeah,
for decades, they've been doing this, is currently. And so really no difference than what they've already been doing.
Yes. They're simply trying to keep the facade going that they might do this someday. So we know, we're not speculating, theorizing, or hypothesizing. We know what they're dispersing from hundreds of lab tests all over the world. We took a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration flying lab to altitude, top scientists in it, all in the film to dimming. So we know we have aluminum, nanoparticles. And by the way, the smaller the particle, the more lethal they are to everything, the entire web of life. And none of the air quality testing, none of it identifies this mountain of toxic materials, Clayton, by design. The whole system is designed not to show this because they test for 10 microns generally, occasionally 2.5 microns. Nanoparticles are inconceivably smaller. They go completely under the radar by design. Aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants, graphene. Clayton, have you ever seen, after a rain event, foaming runoff down gutters?
Yes.
Okay, those are surfactants, and that can be extreme on occasion. In fact, we have massive sea foaming events, which is the dispersion of these materials over our oceans. And again, we have a whole so-called science community pretending that this is some natural phenomenon, just like they're pretending the weather and temperature whiplash. Clayton, have you seen the radical degree to which temperatures are swinging back and forth, up and down, 50 and 60 degrees in a day? Have you seen that?
Oh, I've not only seen it, I've felt it. Or one day you're wearing shorts and suddenly the next day it's snowing, which is exactly what happened here last week.
Brand new science studies out this week from nature.com citing these radical swings and stating they just don't know why this is happening. And this is where the true insanity of our species and the whole structure of our system in academia becomes apparent when the so-called scientists can't seem to see the elephant in the sky. And these radical swings are from patented processes of chemical ice nucleation for weather modification. These are endothermic, aka energy absorbing materials. Again, patented processes dispersed into cloud moisture, creates a cold, dense layer of air that descends to the surface, can be sometimes only a few hundred feet thick. And that's why you have also, Clayton, have you seen all the ice storms we have now and the constant massive hail? Constant. Have you noted that?
I think we talked a little bit about that, and I know I experienced this massive hailstorm with these, huge. I had to get my new truck into some sort of protective area so that I wouldn't be destroyed after I just bought the darn thing, and they were huge.
Yes, it's now become the norm. Insurance companies are canceling everywhere for hail specifically. Again, that's chemical ice nucleating operations. That's part of climate engineering. I mean, the scope and scale of these programs, the degree to which they're derailing the entire hydrological cycle is inconceivable. And about global dimming, the stated purpose in the report you cited, that figure based on various science studies can range anywhere between 20 and 30% already today. What's that mean? Doesn't mean a 20 to 30% drop in visible light. It's a drop in direct sunlight. And that is the expressed purpose of these programs: solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement. So that's today, right now. And that's what brought me into this, Clayton, was my home, off-grid home, which was on the cover of Home Power Magazine, world's largest renewable energy magazine. My loss of solar power was 60, 70, 80%. I knew that couldn't be just, quote, condensation, certainly not just jet exhaust. And by the way, that's a narrative that's being propagated by some circles now that is incredibly alarming to us. We're so far past that point. This is not jet exhaust in our skies. It's a sprayed particulate dispersion. We have up-close film footage of these aircraft at altitude, nozzles visible, turning dispersions on and off. So there's a concerted effort right now to try to muddy the water, still claiming this is, quote, jet exhaust, that it covers our entire horizon. And we extrapolated, Clayton, how much material is being dispersed based on hundreds of lab tests in Minnesota, working with the University of Minnesota. And it appears globally, based on the research we did in Minnesota and extrapolating that globally on an annual basis, somewhere in the range of 40 to 60 million tons of highly toxic nanoparticles are being sprayed into our skies annually, which is making every single function of the planet's life support systems worse, not better. It's damaging already damaged systems. This is a fast track to planetary omnicide, Clayton, if they allow these programs to continue.
It's absolutely devastating. I mean, you think, well, England doesn't even have enough sunlight as it is. Do you want to dim more of it? How much more damage can you already do? It's disgusting. We talk about the aluminum piece here. Philip, our esteemed technical director here and producer, has a background in molecular biology. We were talking after your appearance on the show a few weeks ago about aluminum, and I didn't even know it. It was after our show. We were just chatting here about You continue to always blow us away. But after the show, we were talking about how this aluminum. Philip, can you explain again what we're talking about here? So you think, oh, it's fine on its own if it's just there in the soil, but it only has. You go explain that.
So aluminum, like just metallic aluminum, is it doesn't really do a whole lot to the environment other than just be there. But once your soil acidity hits about 5.5 pH, it becomes soluble. Then plants take it up, and then you've got soluble aluminum, which is just devastating to plant life and then anything that eats it. So then you've basically like taken a metal and turned it environmentally toxic. And 5.5 pH is not very acidic. It doesn't take a whole lot of acidity in the soil to make it soluble.
Everything Philip just stated is exactly on target, exactly correct. So we know that aluminum does not exist in free form naturally in the environment, always bonded to other elements. It's highly reactive. If it's in free form and it's in our precipitation, that's means it's been mined and refined and dispersed, period. Bioavailable aluminum, highly toxic to all life forms, period, no exceptions. In regard to the pH, and that's completely correct as well, 5.5 is when it becomes reactive again and bioavailable. Precipitation now is somewhere in the range, if it's untainted, of 5-6. We're walking a razor's edge here from precipitation that is just acidic enough to start freeing up this metal that's being dispersed in our skies. And now it's already in bioavailable form. And we have peer-reviewed study to prove that this bioavailable aluminum in our rain is killing root systems. Clayton and Philip, have you seen how many trees tip over now every time the wind blows? Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The root systems are dying back, just like their crowns are dying back. This bioavailable toxic metal in the rain is killing soil microbiome, which is killing root systems. And there are more life forms below the surface of the soil than above. People don't realize that. You can't sterilize the soil and expect to grow food for very long. And we have other ramifications as well that are ongoing and worsening by the day. Climate engineering operations are destroying the ozone layer. It's not hairspray cans. CFCs are a problem, but it's an ant compared to an elephant when we look at climate engineering operations. So climate engineering and the oxidative particles they're dispersing in the atmosphere, along with the frequency transmissions used to manipulate them, is destroying the ozone layer. No, it's not getting better. Again, that's more smoke and mirrors. Even though the sun feels incredibly intense on your skin, on surfaces, we have more car deaths every year because that thermal energy penetration is heating cars far faster than people have been used to it. So the signs are everywhere. It's burning the bark off of trees. The cambium layers are being burnt off trees from tip to trunk. And they're telling us it's better. So again, so many people will ignore their senses, their eyesight. They can see what's happening in the skies. If someone will just tell them, don't worry, everything's fine, go to sleep. The ramifications from what's happening in our skies can't be overstated. And the amount of materials we're breathing with every breath we take, again, how is this not an immediate fight for life, Clayton?
You're right. Well, I think it's absolutely intentional. To me, it's the intentional population control, intentional destruction of our planet that these globalists are doing to us. I don't see it. I can't see it any other way right now. I really can't. And as Natalie, who's upstairs, feeling that these global.
How is this not an immediate fight for life, Clayton? Can't be overstated. And the amount of materials we're breathing with every breath we take, again, how is this not an immediate fight for life, Clayton?
You're right. Well, I think it's absolutely intentional. To me, it's the intentional population control, intentional destruction of our planet that these globalists are doing to us. I don't see it. I can't see it any other way right now. I really can't. And as Natalie, who's upstairs feeling awful and sick, she texted, she said, imagine you got solar panels because the government told you to. And then they do this to you, right? Then they block out your energy. They tell you to get this stuff and then they block it out.
Strong's G 1228. Diabolos. Diabolos.